Now let's look at how we enter cash flows into the 12C and solve for net present value. So I'll make a couple notes up here first about net present value, because for most people this is a new concept they haven't really heard before. So the first thing to remember about NPV is your solution is going to be a number, not a percent. Okay, so it's not like internal rate of return. You're not going to get a percent value, you're going to get a hard number. But you do use a percent. You enter the desired rate as a percent. This is the desired rate of return that the investor wants on the investment. Number 3, as with all cash flow entries, sign conventions are a big deal. They really matter. And one of the things that I see often when people are learning how to do this work in the Live Does It Pencil workshops is that they forget to change their sign convention, so either get the wrong answer or they get no solution. So sign conventions, very important. The last thing to remember about NPV is that you get a number, and a positive NPV is the amount more that you can pay at time 0. And a negative NPV is the amount less that you can pay at time 0. And the reason I say it's at time 0 is because what NPV solves for is how much you have to offset or add to that initial cash flow at time period 0 to achieve your desired rate of return. So I'm going to go back to this rental house that we used in both the entering cash flows and the IRR demos. And the cash flows for that looked like this. At time 0, we put out $75,000. At time 1, we received in positive $3,000. At time 2, we paid out $1,000. At time 3, we received $4,000. And at time 4, we received $100,000. So our key presses here are going to be FCLX to clear the calculator, 75,000, change signs, blue G, CF of O, and then 3,000, blue G, CF of J, and 1,000, change signs, blue G, CF of J, and 4,000, blue G, CF of J, and finally 100,000, blue G, CF of J. So once we have all those flows entered, then we're going to enter our desired rate. But the way we'll do in this problem is first we'll go back and solve for IRR. We'll do that first. We'll get our IRR value, and then I'll show you how to enter the desired rate and solve for the net present value. So we'll turn on the calculator. FCLX clears it. 75,000, change signs, blue G, CF of O, which again is that present value key, and then 3,000, blue G, CF of J, which is the payment key, 1,000, change signs, blue G, CF of J, 4,000, blue G, CF of J, and finally 100,000, blue G, CF of J. Now we're going to solve for IRR next, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. You don't have to do this to solve for NPV, but let's just bring back that internal rate of return number to show what the overall rate of return on this investment is as it stands. So the internal rate of return is 9.31%. Now let's say that the investor is looking in the marketplace and the investor wants a 15% rate of return. So once the cash flows are loaded, here's what I would do. I would enter 15 as my rate or my I value, and then I press Gold F NPV. So let's do that. So we'll type in 15I, enter the rate, and then Gold F NPV, which is your present value key. So the answer here is negative 13,342. So here's what this means. In order for this investor to achieve the desired 15% rate of return, he or she must pay this much less than this value to achieve this 15%, which logically makes sense because the investment inherently earns 9.31. So if you want to make more than 9.31, all things being equal, your adjustment's made here with the cash that you pay out. So if I type in, this is a negative, so the way I'll do it on the 12C is just type in 75,000 and add it to it. And I'm just going to round this by pressing F0. What it means is, in order for this investor to earn the desired 15% rate, they must in fact pay out not 75,000, but 61,658 at time period 0 here to achieve the 15% rate of return. This would actually be a negative number. So, this is the basics of net present value. If you've never done this before, here's my strong recommendation. Watch this video a couple times. It takes a few times for it to sink in, and then we've got some problems coming up, but this is the basic methodology. I'll just do a quick review. First of all, you're going to get a number and not a percent value as your solution, just like we did here. You're going to enter the percent as we did here. 15% was the desired rate of return. Pay attention to those sign conventions. Did that all the way down here. And finally, if you get a positive NPV, this is the amount more that you pay at time period 0. And if it's a negative NPV, it's the amount less that you pay at time 0. Since I put in 15% on investment that is inherently returning 9.31, my NPV was negative 13,342, meaning I have to pay less than 75,000 to achieve my 15%. So by doing simple subtraction, what I really have to pay is 61,658 at time 0 to achieve the 15%.